Well, hello, everyone. I think you're really going to enjoy today's event. I'm Doug Piper, and I want to welcome everybody to this AHA Town Hall. Now, we've got some great folks there in the chat. Oh my gosh. How about putting in the chat where you're from and where you're viewing it from? Because we'd love to see where everybody is. This is a big moment for the American Homebrewers Association, and we're here tonight to talk about AHA's exciting new chapters. Now, we're going to figure out where we're headed, and this is great news for you. And we know you have questions about what independence means for the AHA and how it impacts your membership, your benefits, and your homebrewing future. And that's exactly why we're here tonight. So please put your questions over there in the questions section. If I can point, I think it's right over there on the edge, and be sure to, there's one that a little check mark or question mark in there. That's the one where the questions go. The chat's in the other, and the board is in the chat and may actually answer your questions there. So put them in there. Now, this is an illustrious group we've got here. Check out all these, our board members. I am really excited to be seeing everyone. This is a great group. So listen, we're going to jump right in. I want to introduce everybody. So we got Shauna Comray. She is an actor turned beer lover, home brewer, and beer educator. She's also an advanced Cicerone, podcast host. Shauna brings star power to the world of homebrewing because every great pint deserves a standing ovation. If Gary Glass, who hardly needs an introduction, from leading AHA to brewing at Left Hand, Gary's been shaping the homebrewing for decades. He's judged more beers than most people have ever tasted. So if it's in a glass, Gary's got an opinion. We have Sandy Cockerham, a Grandmaster 11 beer judge. Sandy has judged in over 300 competitions. So if you brew it, chances are she'll critique it, fairly, of course. And if you have a flawed pint, she just might be able to tell you how to fix it. We got Drew Beecham, homebrewer, author, and fermentation fanatic. Drew believes that brewing is magic, and he's got 7 books to prove it. So if it bubbles, ferments, or foams, he's all in. And we've got Gary Roskoff, a home brewer since 2007. Greg blends beer, risk management, parenting, and because if he can handle 3 kids, a mash tun's a breeze. And last but certainly not least is Julia Hertz. She's brewed since 1994, written the book on beer pairing, and championed craft beers everywhere. And she's making sure the AHA's future is as strong as a barrel-aged stout. So the first thing we want to do is just go over the AHA ecosystem overview. So if I hit all the buttons right, that's what we'll see next.
This amazing special Zymurgy Live, and I can't believe the energy and enthusiasm since the AHA announced its independence on January 22nd. A big common thing is sharing what the AHA is and what our normal, I call it the AHA ecosystem. And that ecosystem, I'm going to share this slide and kind of overview it, is really easy to share in one slide, but complex throughout a year of benefits, services, and supporting the member community. If you're a member of the AHA for less than $50 a year, this is what you're joining. And I like to start at the upper left of the ecosystem of the AHA. We've got 1,700 sanctioned AHA clubs. We've got 600 plus retail shops. The Beer Judge Certification Program, which the AHA helped start in 1985, is a big partner in what we do with AHA BJCP sanctioned competitions, hundreds of homebrew competitions each year. We have more than 200,000 followers on social promoting the joy and the hobby and the recipes and the how and the who behind homebrewing on social all year round. We have a bi-weekly newsletter. If you're not getting it, please sign up on homebrewersassociation.org. We do annual recognition awards. And then we have our supplier partners who support homebrewers' needs for raw materials, ingredients, and the like. And then the new AHA forum at the top of my ecosystem slide here. If you haven't checked out the AHA forum, you should. It's the amazing community. Membership's not even required. and you get answers from mentor homebrewers. You can be a mentor homebrewer. You can be a newbie. It doesn't matter. AHA Forum is your place. We have 22,000 members today. That's a big deal. Going to the right of the slide, almost 2,000 member deals, unique discounts, more than pay for your membership. Homebrew Holidays is great. HomebrewCon, we are diligently working to bring that back in 2026 and then recouple that with the National Homebrew Competition. So delivering an annual in-person gathering. NHC, as I mentioned, or National Homebrew Competition this year will be judging more than 3,000 entries. That with 7 first-round locations and then an award ceremony and an events final round event. That's 7 events plus 2 more. That's 9 events for NHC. Club insurance. If you're a club officer, we help you for less than $5 a member insure your members as well as officers. And if you have 75% of your club as AHA members or more, we pay for the insurance. Added value, the Pro-Am competition at GABF, working with the Brewers Association, Great American Beer Festival, Pro-Am competition, and more. And Zymurgy, right? If you don't get Zymurgy, you're missing out. Or if you get the e-version, sign up to get the printed version. This every other month is mailed to you. This publication's been published since 1978. I say that we give reasons and rewards, resources and recipes, and those reasons every other month come in Zymurgy. We don't just focus on the how to homebrew, but we focus on who's homebrewing. We celebrate and share the stories of your fellow AHA members. Award-winning recipes really land and end on that in this ecosystem overview. These recipes are something nobody else has. When looking to brew a Saison, you might want your 15 books. I have them too in my brewing library. But go into our recipe database, put that in as a style, and you get award-winning NHC validated metal recipes from our beer judge certification program pool that judge these beers every year. The recipes are a benefit and a boost. And then homebrewerassociation.org is the hub for everything. Hundreds of thousands of visitors each month, and I really think we're doing it well. So that's a quick hit on the ecosystem. Hats off to each of you founding board members for giving us this boost as our transition committee to bring AHA into its new future. Thanks a lot.
Hey, Emmett Whitclaw.
All right. Well, that wasn't supposed to quite start when it did, but we'll be okay. We got Emmett coming up. First of all, we know you have lots of questions. I mean, we can look in the chat. We can see in the questions you have lots. But the first one we want to hear from actually started a little bit there. We have Emmett Leahy. He's the COO of Clawhammer Supply, and he's got 2 pre-recorded questions. And if by chance you're not familiar with Emmett, he has one of the biggest homebrewing channels on the YouTube. So let's move to Emmett's video.
Hey, Emmett with Clawhammer Supply. We got 2 questions. The first is, homebrewing has been in the decline, and since 2018, AHA membership has almost halved. What factors do you think caused this, and how does going independent help reverse it? And our second question is, what concrete steps will the independent American Homebrewers Association take to make the hobby more appealing to younger folks, new hobbyists, and future generations?
Okay, Julia is going to answer Emmett's questions.
And excellent, hard-pressing questions from, oh my gosh, flippin' Emmett. Hi, amazing. So such a fan and a follower. And thanks for your thoughtful questions, because you're affected by it and really thinking about it. On the first piece of cause membership decline, technically, Emmett said 2018. Through 2016 through 2019, the AHA had close to 46,000 members each of those years. And today I mentioned we have 23,000 members. That is quite a decline. I will say for individual hobbyist groups, though, it's nothing to scoff at. It's pretty something to be proud of, pretty big deal. I'd like to see us at 50, 75, 100,000 members, as long as we can properly service what the members need. And the point is what's causing that decline. We learned in our strategic research that we engaged in over the course of full year last year, almost frankly 2 years in the making, that marketplace conditions do have homebrewing not on the rise, but cooling and softening, particularly in many areas and markets, particularly with an aging demographic of many that are homebrewing, which kind of gets to Emmett's second question. We also learned from our strategic planning, and it's important to pay attention to, it was based on how the AHA was being run and how the AHA was or was not offering value to many of those members that we lost. So we are really, doing that independence move, and he wants to know how that's going to reverse things. No magic bullet answers, but with the group around us today on the founding board and your future board members that'll get elected in 26, and also your future committee leaders and fellow AHA members, we've got a heck of a great chance. We are now empowering the homebrewers to lead their own organization, to financially lead, and once again give strategic direction to what staff do. Also, our move, y'all, opens up the opportunity for fundraising, grants, and the like. And going from a 501c6, which we are technically a part of now, we're going to move to, as assuming approved, 501c3. That's a huge opportunity for other different types of revenue beyond just member revenue. And we're going to experiment more. Also, we're going to have more efficiency and savings from group purchasing. We're moving to our operations piece, and I know it's a little behind the scenes, but our day-to-day operations will be run now or carried out by an association management company, at least in this phase. Maybe in phase 2.0 of our independence, we get back to full-time staff only. But we're now going to have specialists who specialize in supporting associations, and they specialize in doing that for multiple associations. So they group their purchasing and their resources. So we're looking for savings in what we spend. And then I would look for us to respond more to what members want. And I think that will help our membership. The second answer, try to be quick. What concrete steps are we taking to make, the homebrewing more appealing to the younger folks and next gen? The move to independence is a start. We're going to get more playful in what we do. I see a real big role and need, because homebrew clubs are having a hard time too, to help homebrew clubs, because the local level is what's going to make homebrewing even more robust and have traction. I want to bring homebrew shops and retailers back into the mix of interfacing with the AHA's leadership. And you know what, y'all? Since COVID, home is the place to be. We need to do a much better job capitalizing on that and explaining to everyone, since we love our homes so much, we work in our homes. Our homes are our place for our passions, our pastimes, and our hobbies. And homebrewing absolutely has that rightful place. And then I also want to double down on beer judge certification program, judging and stewarding at competitions. That's a big deal. And I think that will help bring the next gen into homebrewing even more.
Awesome. Thank you, Julia. Okay. Now we've got your top questions, and we're going to take a board member at a time, hopefully, if the tech will hold up. And as you might have guessed, right on cue, thank you, Mackenzie, Shauna is first. So Shauna, the question you have is, imagine you know nothing about AHA or what's going independent means. How would you explain this to a homebrewer tuning in for the first time? And why is this exciting for members?
Oh my God, what a great question. There's so many exciting things about this. Truly, we're going back to where we were almost 50 years ago when Charlie Papazian founded the AHA. We were independent then and went through many evolutions and innovations and became a part of, under the umbrella of the Brewers Association, and had an amazing run with the professional brewers. We meaning the homebrewers, were the fuel that created the craft beer movement. Without us, without homebrewers, it wouldn't have happened. And now we're in a brand new era of craft beer and a new era of home fermenting. And going independent means that we get to represent our members. It's truly member driven, and we get to innovate. We get to be grassroots. We get to be scrappy and fun and maybe a little bit weird. The things that you have to think about when you're a professional brewer, we don't have to think about in any ways. We get to, innovate and experiment. Not to say professional brewers aren't doing that, but we get to do it at home and with our friends, and with way less sort of, worries about financial sort of outcomes. So going independent just means that we are here for you. We're here for our members, and you have a say in what we do. So we're really not starting from square one, but we are starting with a legendary past to help fuel us to the future. So independent means that we are going to innovate and experiment and be here for you, the members, for the years to come.
Almost sounds like less restrictions and more fun.
100%. I mean, the thing I think about all the time is home fermenting is fun. We're here to be with our friends and community and, connect with people on something that brings joy. So let's get back to the joy of homebrewing.
I love it. All right. Julia is next. Thank you, Shauna. So, Julia, what was the AHA's role under the Brewers Association? And what's the biggest shift now that we are independent?
Great. And so, whether you know or not, behind the scenes, it is helpful to share that the American Homebrewers Association, that started in 1978, eventually grew the Brewers Association, the modern day Brewers Association, who is the current parent org of the AHA and who we are moving out of with the independence. And with the AHA as homebrewers, we fueled the entire world, global wow evolution of the beverage of beer as we know it. And in the United States, the Brewers Association really is so strong in representing the majority of breweries in the United States, and particularly small and independent craft brewers. So back to the question, the role was a symbiotic, and still is. We look to have a very symbiotic relationship with the Brewers Association going forward, but with more freedoms and coming to the table from a different perspective with different resources. And so the role will evolve, but it'll still be, in my view, very symbiotic, because everyone knows that homebrewers are an essential part of the ecosystem, back to that word, of beer. And so we look to continue to interface with craft brewers' lead organization, which is the modern day Brewers Association today.
So we're no longer under, we're more complementary. Is that what I hear?
Complementary. It's going to take multiple months this year to fully separate from the Brewers Association, and soon we'll be announcing to members as we get to that hire of the association management company that I mentioned. We're very close. That's going to happen within a matter of weeks. But once we hire them, there's a series of transition months so we can pass the baton to the new AMC for our day-to-day account operations. So it's not going to happen instantly, but certainly before the end of 2025.
All right. Well, thank you much, Julia. We'll go on to Drew. Okay, Drew. Independence gives the AHA new opportunities. That's what I'm hearing. So what changes are you most excited about and you want to bring to life?
So two that I can think of immediately. One is just the level of communication. Because the Brewers Association is a trade association, they have to be very careful and very structured about what they say because of tax rules and this, that, and the other, and governance. We're a bunch of hobbyists. We're a bunch of nerds who love to do this. We don't have to be that careful. And so because of that and because of the independence, we are actually going to be able to be more chatty. We're going to feel far less structured and corporate in a lot of ways, right? I mean, think back to all that original stuff that you saw Charlie talking about, relax, don't worry, have a homebrew. That is that energy that's coming back. And I've been referring to a lot as the Mickey and Judy energy, which if you get that reference, you're old and probably should talk to your doctor. So that's one of the big ones for me, is the fact that we are going to be able to be way more open. Somebody was talking earlier in the chat about, as a 501c3, we'll finally be able to figure out how much the magazine costs. And yes, you will. You'll also see, everybody assumes that, make a lot of money on HomebrewCon. Not really. You'll see those budgets coming in as well. And Art's asking for an example. Art, I'll tell you right now, under the older regime of things, this wouldn't be happening this way. So this would be a much more controlled message that is much more curated. This is a lot goofier. And so it's going to be more that energy. And then the other thing I'm looking forward to is the fact that Shauna had kind of referenced it. This is now our own priority. We are no longer advisors. We are the people running this thing. And because of that, that means that we can bring back the things that we're missing. Things like rallies. We've had multiple mentions of rallies in the Q&As. We can bring back things like the club only competitions. We can bring back anything that we want and actually kind of make that happen because, again, it's us and it's us serving our community in a much more direct and forthright way, I think.
So I might have missed it, but which one are you most excited to bring to life?
The Mickey and Judy energy. I like HomebrewCon's a perfect example. As HomebrewCon grew and grew and grew and became even more spectacular, it lost a little bit of the ramshackle nature of having a bunch of homebrewers put on a party. And that is not to say that what was happening was bad. It just I kind of missed some of that energy, and I'm looking forward to getting that back. So
sounds like a better party.
Yeah, I agree. I think homebrew is much more fun when it's a little bit loose and goosey.
Okay. I like that. Thank you, Drew. Julia, we have another question for you. You're a busy lady today. A lot of folks might not know how an association management company, AMC, works exactly. Can you help us understand it? Maybe break it down and provide a few details, please.
Sure. I'll give a quick high-level answer and then cede the time so we can get to the founding board members really speaking more. An AMC or Association Management Company, there's several hundred in the United States. They have their own certifying body. They are really backed by an institutionalized standard operating procedures, and they specialize in operations. They specialize in account management, database management, website management and hosting, member relations, etc. So we, as the association, focus more on the strategies and the actual experiences and interactions with our members in the planning phase and the way that we would want to do, as opposed to having to manage on our own operations. So that's the quick hit. And if anyone has further questions, once we certainly share more information on the AMC that we're hiring, I'd love to answer them, but they will be handling our accounts. And that's a good thing because they already know how to do that and they do it for many other associations.
So it sounds like they'll do the hard part and we'll do the fun part.
I'd love to think of it that way. Sure.
All right. Thank you, Julia. Sandy, you have the next one. And this is a top topic. Gary. Well, I have to explain things a little bit. Crowdcast, one of the things it does not do real well is moving people on and off the stage. Earlier, we had 3 Gary glasses all at once. So at least we hadn't had that. There's Sandy. Awesome. Okay. Sandy, we have one of the top questions in the whole thing because everybody's concerned about competitions. So what's in store for the National Homebrew Competition in 2025 and beyond?
Well, right now on 2025, we've got 7 rounds. We went for 3,300 entries and we got really close. And first rounds are going to be judged March and April. Indianapolis will start some early rounds this Saturday, so it's going to be a lot of fun. And we hope in, let me back up a minute. Finals are going to be in Kansas City, hosted by the fabulous Kansas City Beermeister Club. And it's going to, judging will take at Boulevard Brewing, which is awesome. And we're going to have that June 26th through 28th. And they're going to live stream. I believe Brewing Network is live streaming on the 28th for that. I might be wrong, but that's what I thought I heard. I'm very excited about that. As for 2026 and beyond, as we bring back HomebrewCon, the finals will again dovetail with that, and the awards will be at HomebrewCon. So that's really sweet because I love HomebrewCon, and National Homebrew Competition is very close to my heart and has been for many years. In the future, we will look about evolution of the entry process, change some things to remove some barrier of entries for people to enter. So stay tuned and do feed us your ideas because everybody has great ideas and we'd like to hear what they are. So I'm excited about the future, and I'm very excited that the NHC still continues.
So it sounds like, Sandy, things will just improve from here. Is that correct?
That is always the hope, Doug, and that's something that I'm going to really work towards with the committee.
Thank you so much. And Gary was actually before you. I screwed that up, but we're having fun. So thank you, Mackenzie, for accommodating me. So Gary, HomebrewCon has been a big part of the discussion, and it's a huge part of the AHA experience. I mean, that's all I hear people talk about a lot of the times besides their clubs. So what does the board envision for the future? Will it stay in one location? Is it going to move around? What's your vision for HomebrewCon?
Well, yes, indeed. HomebrewCon is one of the signature events of the American Homebrew Association, and definitely an experience to be had if you've ever been to one. And I highly encourage all members to try and get to one at some point in the future. And definitely, we are bringing it back. We're looking at 2026 to bring, so next year, bringing HomebrewCon back, and as Sandy mentioned, pairing that up with the final round of the National Homebrew Competition. And definitely a goal to move it around the country. Want to make sure it's as accessible as possible to as many members as possible. And then, future homebrew cons, like as we become an independent organization, we're going to be much more dependent on volunteers across the board for the AHA, and HomebrewCon is definitely a part of that. So we will be looking to have a lot of local committee involvement in future homebrew cons. So for 2026, our first steps are to confirm dates and location. So look for more, hopefully in the not too distant future.
So Gary, how would you say the HomebrewCon, I guess we've had it skipped. Is it a priority for the new board? How would you stack that up?
Oh, man, most definitely a priority for the board. Because I know that all of us on the board have been involved in HomebrewCon, and there's just nothing else like it. Getting homebrewers together and being able to interact and share information and just have a good time is such an important part of what the AHA provides for the homebrewing community. So I think for all of us, it's a very important event, and we really want to see it come back and thrive.
Great. Thank you, Gary. So we've got Greg next. So Greg, you get our final question, and then we're going to move into your questions. So start putting them in if you haven't gotten your questions in yet. Again, it's that little box with a question mark. But Greg, you get a question that I've been seeing from the audience, and I think it might be one of the most important ones. The final question that we're going to go through right here before we take the audience question is probably on just about every member's mind is membership costs. Do you anticipate they'll stay the same? And what about the discount program?
Yeah, thanks, Doug. Appreciate the question. And you're absolutely right. It's on the mind of most everyone I've talked to as well. In 2025, we can expect things to stay the same and to stay constant. That's what we know. That's what's been talked with the BA. That's the direction for the time being. We're going to take a look at this as volunteer leaders, as our team at the founding board. We're going to take a look at what does that mean for the future. Can we maintain this? Do we have to make changes? What all entails those possibilities that are out there? So is this an evolution, or is this continuing as usual? We don't quite know yet because we haven't fully been offloaded onto our own. But as we go through those processes, we'll definitely be listening to member input and definitely be looking at what we can do to strategically put ourselves in the best position possible. Regarding the future, regarding our finances, we have to be optimistic. Gaining this 501c3 status is a game changer when it comes to resources, when it comes to possibilities, when it comes to opportunities, when it comes to funding things. I see all these cities people are throwing out there, and as someone who does events in all these cities, we're going to need some resources. We're going to need some funding. We're going to need some donors. We're going to need some great people that step up and get involved in these fundraising opportunities. And that's going to really help us sustain the organization long-term and set us up for long-term success. There's going to be some road bumps. There's going to be some things between now and then. But we're all optimistic, and we're here for the long haul. We're here to put in the work. We're here to make this happen. So I welcome the input. I welcome the feedback from any home brewer out there that wants to be a part of this, and we'll figure a way. That's the only choice.
But going independent isn't a way to raise rates. It's
No,
not your goal.
no, I don't believe so. I think we need to maintain membership value as we take a look at overall cost. If we raise costs so high, that's not inclusive. That's the complete antithesis of what we are trying to do here as a team. We want more people under the tent. We want more people participating, being involved, learning the hobby, expanding it to younger brewers, expanding it across cultural lines. That's the solution. Bringing more people in, and we do that by being an affordable option that provides far more value than any of the costs that's provided. And when it comes to those member deals and those programs, yeah, we have to take a look at those. We have to take a look at how we can expand those and how we can utilize our 501c3 status to get more people involved at a higher level.
Awesome. Thank you, Greg. Now we're going to move into your questions, and Drew and Julia will move right into those, and you guys take it away.
All right. So, Julia, looking here at the questions, and Mac, you can help me put things into answered mode so that we don't re-answer things. Art's first question, the top rated questions from Art, and it's about the AHA independence, but more specifically about how does it impact him as a home brewer, right? We talked about how the independence impacts the AHA, but how is it going to impact the individual home brewer?
Sure. And it's a great question that'll have an unfolding answer. I'd say immediately, our hope is it doesn't impact you, meaning if you're an AHA member, you don't feel the change. You still get what we have delivered day in and day out. And that's a big deal in 2025. But once the transition happens and we're off and running on our own, we will be able to get more engagement from members. Our job as an association, the two reasons people join an association as a member is to solve problems and to have expanded networking and engagement opportunities. So you will have those opportunities, and homebrewers' voice will get much louder, not just within the AHA, but I think in the beer space. I think in the beverage and food space. And so not, a slow burn, hurry up and wait. Thank you. And it's not narcissism. It is all about you all. We literally are here. My job and our job is to steward you all as members. And I'm one of them. I've been a member of the AHA since my 20s. And so our job is to do what we do better, deliver more value, and get more of you engaged. So homebrewing generationally has even more impact because the AHA continued to survive and thrive.
All right, there we go. That's Art's question. The next one is, what are the plans for the future of Zymurgy and its extensive digital archive? Because those are important benefits.
Yeah, I saw you go-getter, by the way. You put that in earlier today, and so I was reading that, and I love your interest because the body of work from the American Homebrewers Association publication, Zymurgy, y'all, Zymurgy, we love it, is extensive. And that digital archive, we have digital archives under Gary's leadership when he was my predecessor and actually in this role. They were translating or transferring AHA's Zymurgy into digital magazines back to 2000. So through homebrewerassociation.org right now, you don't just, if you're a member, get your mailed Zymurgy if you request that and opt in, but you can go back and digitally search. We would anticipate absolutely coveting that body of work and continuing to serve that to members. The thing is that, your peers, the future leaders and the leaders on the call today here in the founding board will make decisions about how we evolve the magazine specifically. But I think magazines have a chance every 3 to 5 years to refresh. I'd like to see Zymurgy get more aligned on strategic priorities and really kind of be mission-based in what it's about content-wise. We've got a great editor-in-chief, Amel Surzan, who is just really leading the charge, took the baton from Dave Carpenter. And so I'd like to see Zymurgy continue. We will protect and covet that digital archive. And we, though, don't have the answers for where we want to take it in 2026. And frankly, you could contribute because we're probably going to be creating a content committee too.
And by the way, I want to just toss out a couple things in there. If you haven't gone and looked through the digital archive, it's great. I have nefarious plans. And also, dirty little secret that Julia will hate me for saying is if you ask nicely about an old article, you may actually even be able to get pictures of it, even from the print ones. So the AHA does have all of the issues. So, all right, next one. Will rallies come back? God, I hope so.
Sorry, I was typing a snarky answer to Drew, and I'll send that later. Sending those emails to you, Drew, on those requests. Hey, founding board, will rallies come back? I'm looking for strategic priorities and the filling in. If you all haven't, by the way, commented, if I can digress for just one moment while we've got you. When we made the announcement for independence on the 22nd of January, we committed, this board wanted every month to have updates. So in February, Shauna and I authored a post and we talked about giving us input on the new strategic priorities and new vision for the AHA. By the way, the new vision, and you can give us comment till the 25th of March, and one of my colleagues can throw that link in the chat, is we celebrate, educate, and promote the art, science, and joy of fermentation, championing a united community of today and tomorrow's homebrewers. And then the strategic priorities, kind of tying it back to the question, is organizational strength and health, knowledge and learning, community, collaboration, and competition. Those are the three. Now we have to fill in, once our members give us the comments and we evaluate that and establish those formally as our strategic priorities, how do we back those up? I certainly have heard about rallies in my 3-year tenure as your ED nonstop, again and again and again. Rallies, for anyone that doesn't know, were gatherings where we had Matt Bowling, who's been very involved at the AHA for many years, and now is with BSG RAR. He was running local AHA events for members that could bring guests and really giving special experiences. Hey, founding board, are we bringing rallies back? If they say yes, we should and will, and that would be starting in 2026.
Yeah, and again, I think rallies are great from that. We've seen a couple of comments in here that people want more local touch. Can we do workshops locally and all that sort of fun stuff? And just because we're no longer part of the Brewers Association doesn't mean that we're not part of the brewing scene, because let's face it, you ask a professional brewer how they got started, the answer is almost always, yeah, so my partner bought me a beer kit, and then it just kind of got out of control. So we're definitely, I think rallies are a great thing for us to be able to bring both of those pieces of energy together. All right. Going on, this was my question. I want to hear from everybody on the founding board. What was the last thing you brewed? And I'll just go ahead and I'll start. I just literally brewed a golden pale ale using fonio grain from West Africa. And it's currently burbling right over there. We'll be ready next week. All right, Shauna.
Dark Mild. It's a clone from Machine House here in Seattle.
There we go. Greg.
I got 2 over the weekend. I did an ESB, first English beer I've ever homebrewed, so really looking forward to seeing how that one turns out. And then I am brewing my American Porter, which is a take on an NHC gold medal winning recipe that I'm hoping does really well this year.
Yeah, Gary, it's going to be cheating to ask you.
Well, I mean, I guess that depends on what scale we're talking. As I was helping out on a 60-barrel batch yesterday, brew a lot of 7-barrel batches, but my last homebrew was a quad that I brewed with our former assistant head brewer at Left Hand that is still on tap at my house, but I am not at my house at the moment, so I'm not drinking our quad. But I am brewing a quad as a Pro-Am on our pilot system on Friday.
There we go. Bring it to all levels. All right, Sandy.
I've not brewed for a minute, but the last one was an Imperial Stout, but I am planning soon, when I'm not running a first round or traveling to judge, to do a Hefeweizen for the summertime.
All right. And then Miss Julia just to prove to the crowd that you are indeed not only the executive director of the American Homebrew Association, but also a homebrewer yourself.
I am. I could show you my brewing library. I brew stovetop on the patio with propane gravity-fed system, 3-vessel, and electric in my garage. The most recent thing that I've been brewing and perfecting is Extra Special Beautiful. Yes, I am a home brewer and can rename a style. If you want to know more and see all my research on that, past Zymurgies will certainly show you, as well as homebrewersassociation.org.
There we go. I love that question. That's fun. All right. All right. So the next question comes from Keith. How can we attract a more diverse group of people to our club? And how are we going to get the next generation of homebrewers interested in the hobby?
Hopefully, Keith, you heard me answer Emmett's questions in the beginning on next gen. Another thing that I should have said when I answered that is I really think we do, if you follow AHA on social, right, our two main channels these days are Facebook as well as Instagram. It's got a lot of opportunity to expand, get more engagement based, but you cannot miss the fact that we have hundreds of thousands of collective followers and we make beer look good. We make brewing look good. And so I would say leveraging social and meeting homebrewers where they're at. We need to get more robust. Doug Piper, our moderator and fearless leader in that department, will be the first to say on YouTube, we have an emerging YouTube presence. We just don't leverage it enough. And we need to put resources towards that to do it. So how does that get to the local homebrew club? I don't have all the answers, neither does the founding board, but the bottom line is a more diverse homebrewing community from all walks of life. That means age diversity, that means socioeconomic diversity, demographic diversity, geographic diversity. The better we will have as a hobby of and a community of homebrewers. So to do that, we need to get clubs, I think, more resourced. We need to get clubs more supported. The majority of clubs, and trust me, I talked to hundreds since I've started in the last 3 years. One of the biggest questions I get asked is, how can you help us recruit? How can you help us grow? I know it's an old answer, but it's a good one. The mentoring system really does, I think, have power, and allowing your leaders in those clubs to feel that they can help the broader community by teaching them how to homebrew and inviting different people to come brew with your club and getting people to brew in their own homes. If you brew with people and they brew at your house, that's different when if they're brewing it at their own house. And whether they brew at your house or at a brewery, they need to go home with that beer. So it's actually bubbling and fermenting in their house. So then they're a part of it for that next 2 to 5 week journey or whatever. So I would say get more people brewing in their home and having the fermentation happen is a big part of it.
Yeah. And I'll just throw out there, we're thinking a lot about what we can do to help clubs. In fact, that's going to be one of the subcommittees that people can volunteer for. And if you want a good laugh, you should see the document that I've put together that I've inflicted on the board for all these crazy ideas. But yeah, there's a lot of thoughts out there. And I think the big one, Julia, you're right, is we've got to meet people where they are. And particularly with the younger generation, that's a lot of social. That's a lot of social media stuff getting out there. All right. Next question comes from Dwayne, who is asking when, hopefully, not hopefully, Dwayne, when National HomebrewCon returns, can you all spread it out versus rotating it in the North, West Coast, and East Coast as it has over the last 1.5 decades? Dallas, Fort Worth, Atlanta, Nashville, etc. would all be viable options.
I'll kick it to the board on this one, and there might be varying views because we're just talking as a group to get that dynamic of decision making. And the board should answer how we're going to get me direction and the association management company on where we land geographically in 2020.
Well, I mean, look, there's, I put it in the comments here. One of the big advantages. So I think, Julia, we're planning on a smaller party this year, right? We're not going multi-thousand or for next year. And one of the,
keep going, Drew. Keep going.
All right. But one of the big advantages of having a smaller party, ironically, is that we can go into more places. One of the biggest challenges, and Gary can absolutely speak to this, as the party got larger, our available cities where we could go and book a place to actually go and shove 2,000 to 3,000 homebrewers in that would take homebrew beer and whatnot was ridiculously restricted. But now that we're actually going to be purposely planning a smaller party, it does actually open up a lot of possibilities. I mean, we'll no longer be in the big, beautiful downtown convention center. We'll be at something above the Hotel 6 in your area, their conference center. But we'll be in a nicer hotel, but not necessarily a big convention center.
And this is something that Julia's always talked about, is that HomebrewCon is place for fun, right? Like you want it to be part of your vacation. Yes, we want to have educational seminars and like learn from people, but I mean, club night is one of the best things I've ever been to in my life. So it's like having those community pieces and making it smaller and something accessible for people. So to answer the question, we're investing in every area and every sort of region. And I think, Greg, did you have something that you wanted to add? I think I might have interrupted you.
Yeah, I think we have to look at a combination of where the laws are going to be favorable and where the price is going to be favorable. And we can't price people out, and we have to make sure that people can bring and share their homebrew. You know, you take a look at a place like Louisiana, where they allow certain events and certain things to happen, right? It's just that is a natural place to look. And I know that the South was mentioned in there. You can get some really good deals on hotels in the South. I haven't done a conference in the summer outside of the South in many years. So I think it's a whole big picture that we need to look at, where we can get people to come in, where they can transport their homebrew, and where they can transport their club members, and just have a critical mass of people. But I want to echo everything that Shauna and Drew have said, that we're all on the same page of we're going to figure this thing out, and we got to make sure it's a high value proposition for our members to bring the family back together, so that we can party again, and to do it right, and to do it at the level that we want to see and that we need to see. And while it might be smaller to start out, we're going to learn, and we're going to grow, and we're going to make this thing great.
Yeah. All right. And by the way, there's been a couple of comments about, hey, doing smaller regional events. And I put a comment in the chat, and I want to make sure people saw that, which is regional events are great, and particularly doing the smaller events, but the problem and the challenge that we face is the logistics of them, and making sure that we have enough local people who will actually make it happen. And that's been the biggest thing that kind of causes a lot of those older, smaller regional things to go away, is that the crowd gets burned out doing it.
And I would add, Drew, though, that having those local committees for HomebrewCon, I feels like that is something that we've all talked about as being a priority as well. Like, really connecting with folks like clubs in the area, and having that sort of grassroots, people who know the area so well, is something that we've also really talked about. Like, we don't know exactly what's going to happen in 2026, but that feels like a very important part of it.
Yep. And Art also said in there, maybe clubs could petition for their area. Art, congratulations. You just figured out what we used to do. Clubs would put together a local committee report and volunteer themselves to do the work. And that would be part of how everything would get chosen. So there you go. But yes, HomebrewCon.
We do have a document that kind of spells out how to do that, and I would love to see that come back. And yeah, I mean, it's going to be absolutely necessary for locals to be doing a lot of the research on venues, and doing a lot of the work, because there's only so many of us, and we don't have the resources of the Brewers Association. So and to what Shauna was saying, the local committees brought in so much innovation to the event. So I think I'm really excited about bringing that aspect of HomebrewCon back, and having it in smaller venues, and being a little bit more of an intimate event.
I do kind of miss some of the days back when HomebrewCon was small enough that you kind of knew everybody there. I've talked before. My very first HomebrewCon was 2001 here in LA. And I was part of the organizing committee for that, because apparently even back then I was stupid. We considered ourselves to be a great big success because we had over 300 people. So that gives you an idea of what we're working with here. All right. Well, and while Julia's out there, let's go ahead and jump ahead to some of the other ones. Any possibility of expanding to include home distillation? We have talked about that.
Mm-hmm.
It is part of the questions out there. You're like, do we expand our audience? And home distillation is a very easy place to see us going. However, I think right now the priorities, and Shauna, correct me if I'm wrong here, but the priority right now is to get us into a working framework, make sure this thing can keep running on the wheels, and then start expanding.
Totally. I mean, nothing's off the table, really, right? We're like home fermenters, and technically distilling, you do ferment. So, that's in there. And this is something that's come up before. Some states' laws prohibit you from doing so. I mean, I make essential oils with my kit. I make some distilled water. So there's some of that navigation to happen. But I would say, you know, this is member driven. So if our members are like, that is what we want to do, then, you know, we'll figure out how to make that happen. But yeah, we're keeping with a lot of, you know, homebrewing first, but that doesn't mean, you know, we're all a very creative, innovative bunch. And I don't think we're going to be happy just doing one thing forever.
Yep.
Correct me if I'm wrong.
No, I mean, look, I think you'd be hard pressed to find any group of homebrewers where, you know, it's not hey, look, I made mead, I made wine, I made cider, I made kimchi, I made sauerkraut, I made pickles, I made, you know, this, other, and eventually everybody, or most people who are obsessed, end up somewhere distilling adjacent. So there we go. Next question is from Brian West, who's asking, what are the founding board's priorities as the AHA becomes independent, and how will we measure success? Miss Shauna.
Oh gosh, that's a good question. I mean, we posted a little bit about what our strategic priorities are going forward. We just talked at length about one. We need an event. We need HomebrewCon back, a gathering place, a place to celebrate our community. And we want to stabilize, right? We want to make sure that we have a future going forward, and that is financial. You know, like we want to make sure that we have the funds and revenue opportunities going forward that we can be sustainable. I mean, we've been around, we will be for 50 years coming up here in few years. And we want to make sure that we're setting up for a future generation of home fermenters and home brewers. So that's another priority, is stabilization and making sure that we're still able to deliver all the same benefits for years to come, and then adding some and then changing things like, oh, we realize that this benefit is not actually a huge thing to this chunk of membership. So I would say communication and transparency is another huge priority going forward. And please, anyone else on the board, jump in. But I feel like that's a huge piece, is the communication piece. And this is not to talk ill at all about the Brewers Association. We wouldn't be here without them, but it's just different for us. So while, and Drew, you mentioned this earlier, if you're a trade organization, there's little things you have to keep close to your chest. But here it's different for us. Our priorities will be different. So hopefully pardon?
No, go ahead.
And how to measure all that? Goodness, I think we have to hold ourselves accountable. And to answer your question, I'm not sure how we do that, but if we have open communication and transparency, hopefully we'll be able to very accurately hold ourselves accountable as a board and as an organization as a whole.
Yeah, and I think one of the biggest things about success is we now actually do get to really redefine what that means. I think under the previous control of everything and with how everything worked, you know, remember I said my first HomebrewCon was 300 people, and we considered ourselves a raging success. You know, the last HomebrewCon in San Diego was considered a not success because it only had about, I think it was like 1,500 people was the attendance, somewhere in that neighborhood. Yeah, that's still 5 times the one that I had first, when we consider ourselves to be spiffy. So
yes,
because
perspective is key. Perspective is key, right? And a rebirth is a perfect way of you know, explaining what is happening. I guess in some ways it's funny to be here with legends, I would say, and to hear Gary's point of view, and Sandy and Greg and Drew and everyone in the comments. I mean, everyone is passionate about what the AHA has done and will continue to do. So hopefully that will just, you know, help us find the right path going forward with our strategic priorities.
Yep. All right.
Yeah, Drew, we're a membership organization. We have to stabilize membership and begin to grow membership back to where it should be. And what that includes, growing revenue and the whole finance business side of it. We really have to hone in on what the members value. So the community is super important. The competition is super important. The clubs are super important. And we'll have to sit back and take a look. I call them key result areas. We're going to have to find out what those key result areas are that align to those strategic initiatives, and say, okay, this is what we want to see for membership. This is what we want to see in terms of number of rallies completed in 2025. And then how do we properly resource that through our AMC? But we're just getting that piece started and taking a look at what that means. We do have those 3 areas that we're focusing in on, and it really goes back to member value, member retention and growth, and then what we're doing to provide member resources so that we can all enjoy this hobby at an even higher level than what we do right now.
Greg, if you start talking KPIs, I'm going to dump a beer on your head.
I will just say having Greg is so imperative. Like the way you're thinking is exactly what we need. So thank you.
By the way, I know we're going to start running out of time here, and we got a ton of questions left. I do want to make sure that everybody understands. If you get questions in, we are going to answer them, and we'll include it as an ancillary post with this chat. So if you're sitting there and you've looked at those questions and gone, well, I'm not going to ask anything because it's not going to get answered, put it in because we're going to answer it, and it's very important to us. So, all right, Travis has a question here. What is your outlook on the state of the homebrewing hobby today? Declining, improving? What are actionable ways to make it better? I'll just say real quick, I think the hobby, we've been talking about a decline. Some of the stuff I'm seeing, some of the interest I'm seeing, the number of new people I'm seeing pop into online areas seems to indicate to me that we're in that leading moment of where it's flattening. That decline, I believe, is going to start flattening now. And hopefully, look, we know that homebrewing is almost antithetical in terms of its cycle with the economy. So right now, with a lot of the economic uncertainty that's happening, there's a real good chance that we'll see homebrewing bump up just on that basis alone. So I think the good thing is if we take the momentum that we have right now, we're in a good position. I mean, look, they introduced me as a fermentation fanatic. I love this stuff. I really want to make sure that other people love this stuff too. So that's my goal. All right. Next one is from Greg, who's asking, I realize that the first A is for American, but roughly how many international members are there? Are there any plans to harness them for diversity and growth purposes? Shauna, I don't know how many international members we have.
That is a great question for Julia. I don't have that data, but I know that's being tracked. So we will make sure, just as Drew said, any questions that aren't answered, we're keeping track of that, and we'll make sure to get you an answer. And you're also welcome to reach out to Julia directly.
But I will say the Americas thing has been talked about.
Yes, we have talked about that, and that's been talked about even at the governing committee level for years. There is a robust international community that we serve. I just don't have the data on what that is.
Yep. All right, and I think we already answered Tom's question about home distillation. Yes, we're looking at home distillation, but we got to make sure that we're stable first, and going from there. I've been to several homebrew cons. Dave's question, the AHA helping organize state or regional one or 2 day workshops. We've kind of answered some of that. I do think we are all loving that idea, but again, it depends upon getting local committees to work with, because again, the important thing to know right now is outside the AMC, the AHA has exactly one staffer, and that's Julia, and a half staffer with a contract for the editor for them all. So that leads into the next part. What kind of volunteer options are available? There's a link. Go volunteer. We all need people to help us with our committees.
I'll put it in the chat.
Yep, it's also under the question as well.
Put it everywhere.
Yeah. So Susan, hey Miss Susan, is asking, just wondering, how does the Brewers Association support the separation? I think I understand they don't want the HA, but are okay with the HA taking their funds and doing their own thing, or do we lose our money that has been brought in by homebrewers, but we're really part of the BA? All right. So Shauna and Julia made a giant pitch to make all of this happen. For people who don't know, that Shauna's other hat, other than being the chair of the HA, is also being on the BA board. She wears many, many hats on top of those curls. The BA was, for people who don't know the history, the AHA has always been somewhat embattled under its existence, under the whole Brewers Association, AOB, and everything else. When all that merger started to happen, people started to say, why does a professional organization have a hobbyist group under it? And that's been a question since Gary was the executive director. And I will say, I think the BA was very supportive of this move, because they understood they didn't want to kill the brand, because that would be bad and engender a lot of bad feedback. And yes, we did get money.
Yes, there's seed money, and then deferred revenue, membership revenue that will go with us. So that financial piece is extremely helpful. And I will say that at the board level, we have incredible support. I know that sounds like I'm just saying that, but it really is true that people want us to succeed. If you ask, I always ask it, who started as a home brewer, and almost every hand goes up. So they respect us and they know that this makes sense, and they're here to support us in the future too. And we're going to have a beautiful partnership going forward. So I'm really optimistic and grateful for their support.
Thank you, Shauna. Yeah. Drew, we're about at the top of the hour, and I think Julia has some connection issues, so she's not going to be able to wrap up. So, Shauna, I'm going to toss the closing questions for you. Drew, is there one last short question that you can get to, and then we respect everybody's time and try and end on time?
Yeah, I think this one's important to just put it out there because it's going to re-emphasize the independence thing. Dwayne was asking, how will the governing committee work? Will the governing committees represent rank and file homebrewers' concerns and have a vote at the governing committee meetings, or are they advisory? Very important here. We are not a governing committee anymore. We are a board of directors. We control this damn thing. So in terms of that, we are not advisors. We can actually mess around with the wheel, and God help us all.
Well, I love that. Well, that's it. That's a good lead-in, Shauna, to our closing question. But the first thing is, first of all, I want to thank everybody who took the time, an hour of your evening. Such great questions. As Drew mentioned, they're actually going to be posted, and so you could get answers to all your questions. So go ahead and keep putting them in there. I hope Julia will actually show up, but right now it looks like a black screen. Ha! Julia, can we hear you? And you can take the closing question. Oh, I'm not hearing any audio. Okay. All right. So, Shauna, here we go. So I've heard a lot about the importance of the members and how they shape AHA. I've heard a lot about getting more members. So bottom line, Shauna, how can members shape the future of AHA?
Communicate, talk to us. We want an open, just back and forth between, and there's opportunities to comment on the vision, our vision and mission. We have that's open until the 28th, I believe. We can drop that in the chat, someone. Tell us what you think the future of AHA should look like. We are here for you. We're a founding board, and we signed up because we believe in this incredible organization and the people that fuel it. I can speak for myself in saying that homebrewing changed my life, and I wouldn't be here today without it. So this is an incredible opportunity going independent to, as Greg said, as Drew said, as Sandy said, as Gary said, as everyone here, Julia would maybe more eloquently have said at this point, that we're now able to follow the path of membership. We're a membership organization, and that's why we're here. So if I haven't said it enough, please talk to us. Please volunteer. Please raise your hand, as we all did. And remember, we're all volunteers too. So you could be doing this very thing in a year from now. So please always reach out to any one of us with any concerns, questions, comments, and comment on the vision mission. Please, it's for you.
Well, Shauna, thank you very much. That was a great close. Julia, I'm sorry you're having internet connectivities, but we had a lot of fun. Wasn't this great? Listen, I am so glad that everybody took time to do this. The AHA is entering a new era, and you are members at the heart of it. And this is an opportunity to build a homebrewing community that's stronger than ever. So thank you for being part of the journey. Stay connected, follow AHA updates, join discussions, and let's brew the future together. So cheers, everybody.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Cheers. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Can't wait.